What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. I don't know about everybody else, but the whole August, August blues being a slow month, not being opportunity, I haven't really felt it. There have been obviously things don't move as fast, but there has been plenty volatility and a lot of opportunities as far as myself, because obviously, I trade a handful of the tech names, some of those main names that I focus on almost every day, and then with those gaps, and they have provided great trading opportunities. So, had a good week. Obviously not as big as last week. Can't really expect that to be, every single week. But I'll quickly go over numbers. Want to just talk about a lot of stuff. And so as far as Thinkorswim, I know I've made a video before talking about how Thinkorswim is like a little laggy, and that's why I use TC2000. And it turns out that I was wrong on that. So I called Thinkorswim, and it turned out that I actually had like two accounts with them. I guess I opened one up, and then I created a new one, and then I had two out there, and I was using the one that was like a demo one, or like the demo on the charts or whatnot. So it was a little slow. So when I called them and got that cleared up, I'm now logged into the account that I originally started with, and with the real-time data. And it's not that I was delayed before, but it was just a little off. Now there's no delay whatsoever. The charts are awesome, and I really like Thinkorswim. The main issue with me is I felt that they were lagging, but I fixed that. So overall, good stuff. I'm going to be using them for now. I still have TC2000. I'm just going to be kind of using both, but I do like the Thinkorswim just because they it may sound crazy, but they blur out the pre-market data. So as far as on the eyes, it allows me to really determine the difference on the two on TC2000. They do not have the shaded area on the pre-market, so it can tend to get a little, look a little congested and a little crazy. But all right, regardless of that, we'll move on. I'll start to go over all of the numbers. So just to quickly go over the week total, today's amount, and then I'll quickly touch on kind of what I traded. So as far as Monday goes, if you can see, I know the numbers are a little small. Monday was pretty much a flat day. I made 1760, and then the next day after that, Tuesday, I ended up making 677. I traded Moomoo. That was one of the bigger trades. I lost 283. The day after that, yesterday I made 111. I was up actually more than that, and I gave a little bit back. I tend to give more back when I trade more, and I noticed myself over trading a bit, so I just cut it. And then as far as today goes, made 346. So I had a good day. Traded Alta and then traded GME. So I'll do a quick total. The 1760 plus the 677.80 minus the 283.80 plus the 111, and then just assume that commissions. I only took 100 shares in the Alta because it was a little nuts, and then I stepped the size up on GME just because I had a cushion and it was only a $19 stock. I only took very small gain on it, but it was a really easy 140 bucks, so I just took it. Let's just say the commissions are $20, so we'll call it made 325 today. So plus the 325, so $847 on the week. So not bad. It's obviously not amazing, but I can't complain. At the end of the day, this is still the small account that I'm trading, and once again, it's just being super happy with the consistency, and especially being in a month that's known for being slower. So I'm up about almost $4,600 on the month, which is, that's amazing. To me, that's an amount that allows me to say, I think that if I can, pump these numbers out, obviously the goal is to, continuously step that up, but an amount in which I can, that's a full-time living, including me doing eBay, and then being able to step that up between the two, being able to definitely make a, full-time living on that, which is great. That's the goal. That's what ultimately I'm trying to do. And it's not like this happened overnight. I've been trading for just over a year. And prior to putting up a month like this, and even some of the other months where they were okay, man, it was a lot of shit, right? There's a lot of bad days. You're slamming your head against the wall trying to figure this out, and there's a lot of downs, and then every now and then there's an up, and it was sticking through it to be able to finally say, I think I actually understand this. And it takes a lot of time, and I feel like a lot of people give up before they get there. And it makes sense, because if you're sane, you don't want to go through kind of the hell that this can be, especially if you happen to lose a lot. Lucky enough, I was super conservative from the beginning, so I didn't lose a lot of money. It was just, losing a little bit every day, then gaining a bit, then one step forward, two steps back. But I never let those two steps get real bad. And then obviously in the smaller account, I've had my ups and downs with this, but it feels pretty good. So as far as just being able to, I'll quickly go over the trades as far as today. I don't want to make the video too long, but Ulta. So this thing gapped down, and in all reality, it's trying to find, what I try to do is I just try to find clear areas of support and resistance. And I had a question, somebody asked, how do you use the moving averages? I really just use them as a guide. I assume that short term, because I am a short term trader, don't get that confused, that if we are trading below the 200 moving out, the simple period moving average, and below the 20 period moving average, the simple period moving average on a 2-minute chart, that it is in bearish territory. If we are trading above it, short term, it's bullish. And then you can use it as a guide, because it does, I think that, it does provide support and resistance, and not always. You can't, nothing is 100%, but like, even look at this Ulta, had a big sell off at the open, it was a little nuts in these first two candles, and then finally created, a bit of a channel, and then finally broke down at that 213 area. I ended up taking 100 shares short at 213. This thing was spready and crazy, and I knew that I had to factor that in. So I took it short at 213. I ended up covering the position at 210.94 for just over 2 points. Now this thing did continue, but at the end of the day, that's a huge move. So I will happily take that move. But as you can see, this thing pushes up, that crazy candle pushes up into the 20, stops in its tracks, and you could say that that's just because it's from pre-market, resistance, but I'm just trying to use everything I possibly can. And then this thing has a, sells off, has a dead cat bounce right into that 20 period moving average, just so happens to be a whole number as well, and then has some more continuation. And then it even does it again here. So just using it as a guide, nothing is 100%, so you can't use it like every time it touches it, I'm going to go short, I'm going to go long, but just being able to use it as a guide. And if it's bouncing in between them, I just assume that it's going to be choppy trading, and I try to avoid that. So really just using them as a signal. That was the Ulta trade. The GME trade, once again, this thing gapped down below the 200, below the 20 period moving average, obviously well below where it was trading yesterday, and then even now below some of the pre-market trading, the pre-market trading. So this thing has a massive, massive fast sell-off. That's a very emotional move. Didn't want to just short this out the gates just in case. So this thing sold off hard, bounced, kind of slowed down, and then finally this tight little channel right here created a tight little channel, and then it finally broke down, and I ended up taking just a quick move on this. I wasn't necessarily wanting to put a lot at risk, so this was like a tiny little scalp. Normally I try to hold on for longer moves, but took 1,000 shares. The moment that I got short on this break of short-term support, the moment I was in the money, I was just letting this. I was going to have this be a break-even trade because I didn't want to risk anything. And then very quickly sold off into the whole number where there was some previous support. It did end up breaking, but I ended up just covering it. 1,000 shares, only 14 cents. This is like kind of a ridiculous trade. Normally I try to get them bigger than that, but 14 cents, a quick $140 already adding on top of a good winner. And I took it, and I called it a day, and up $346 in the day. The account is now at $4,547. So pretty happy with that. Now just showing quickly, I'll go over the week, kind of what I traded in the week. I don't want to make the video too crazy long, but as far as the trade log goes, so on the 21st, the P&L, just to kind of show everybody what I ended up trading. So I ended up trading, some of the tech names. Took a short a few times on Facebook. I kept trying to fight this short, and I just kept catching it at the wrong time. And finally, I did get a small win out of it. And then I ended up getting a small win out of NVIDIA for pretty much just a flat day. It was only $32. It was only $17 after the commissions. And then on Tuesday, it was Moomoo. Moomoo ended up being the big trade. So I would trade NVIDIA a few times, a stock I really, really liked to trade. And then I ended up taking a position on Moomoo. I went short 1,000 shares. I stepped it up because it looked really good. One of those A+ setups, gaps down, and then, price action clearly showed that it was incredibly bearish. Ended up taking a short on the break of the whole number, 38.97, and covered it for, what was it, 66 cents, and made 700 bucks on the day, which was pretty good. And then Wednesday, I ended up just kind of being all over the place. Took a short on low, Nvidia, low again. Took a little short on Moomoo, low. So I was over trading a bit, and I noticed that, when I start jumping in the same name a handful of times, it tends to just kind of be all over the place. And as I can, you can see right here, my P&L was all over the place. So lost money that day. In all reality, it shouldn't have been this big. I could have done better at, stopping out a little bit quicker on some things that were bad. But, overall, I took a loss. It's just, that's how it goes. And then and then yesterday, took a short on SJM, ended up getting like over a point on it, 100 shares, because it was a little spready, a little crazy. And then ended up taking, a short on BABA, a short on Nvidia, another short on Nvidia, and then losing a tad on the BABA, losing a little bit on Nvidia, and then just, stopping out for break even on this second Nvidia trade. And I was up like 50 cents, and then I let this thing come back, and I stopped out break even, and I just said, I'm over trading. I'm done. I'm calling it. I don't want to get myself into that rabbit hole of giving it all back. So it was a small winning day. And then obviously, today putting together, back-to-back winning trades, and then just ending it, realizing, that when I'm up and things have gone good, it's very hard to pull money out of the market regularly. So if I'm able to do it relatively quickly, I try to cut it and be happy with what I got. And overall, 346 bucks on the day, I'm super happy with. So that's that on the week. And then quickly, I just want to go into some other tickers and just talk about, some of the things that I am seeing as far as, really trying to simplify my trading, trying to not make it so complicated, just using very clear areas of support and resistance, and then being able to go short or long based on the breaks of those channels, and then have risk be, above the channel, or, maybe above the previous candle, just depending on what your style is. So, here's an example on Alta. Ended up taking it on the break. So this thing had a big sell-off, very wicky, and then finally slowed down a bit. And, on the break of that channel, here's a little channel, and there's some support. It ends up having a nice move down. And then just continuously keeps putting in flags and breaking, right? And then continues to go lower. So there was more moves here. Let's go to something that's a little bit more clear. This VEEV was really good. So this VEEV, I ended up just not trading it because I was already up nicely on the day. But as you can see, right off the gates, this thing, gaps down on the daily, has a nice, move below the previous pivots. So kind of goes into no man's land. Sells off below pre-market trading, has a push higher, goes lower, higher. I mean, this thing's a little all over the place right now. And then eventually it starts to slow down, sells off, breaks below the previous pivot, also happens to be a whole number, so breaks below, some support, consolidates again, creates a little channel, breaks below that channel, right? Creates another little channel, breaks below support, ends up popping up, and then even going below another pivot low, and then breaks below it. So just being able to try to just call it channel trade. Wait till things clear a very, form a very clear area of support and a nice tight little channel. Like this is a really good example of a channel right here. Where, this thing finally shows that sellers are taking control, channels a bit, bounces between 58 and 57.50. So there's a 50-cent channel in there. When this thing finally breaks down, the risk is not too much. I obviously didn't trade this, but just trying to go back and review. I always try to go back and review and try to see how I could have traded these things, what I, possibly had to risk. But, a break of, 57.50 and you have risk above pivot high or even the previous high of a green candle, which is something that I like to do. You got to figure out what works for you. You're really only risking 30, 40 cents on this trade. And then obviously it ends up working out nice and, moving over $1 from that spot. So, really just trying to find clear areas of support and, trying to avoid the choppy mess. I know that a lot of times I get involved in the choppy crap and I'm trying to almost like, force trades a bit and be like, oh, well, that looks like support. And then I can take it. And that's where I find myself having my worst trades. Moomo's a great example. So Moomoo obviously gapped down a couple days ago and then had, a 2-day bounce and then has since sold off today. But as you can see, this thing, and then it sells off right into the 220. So it's a little choppy to begin with. So basically just, leaving it alone. And then finally it clears that. The 20 crosses the 200, which is usually, a pretty powerful sign. And then finally, short-term direction finally breaks below this previous area of support at 38, and then the sellers have been in control ever since. And even if, a lot of times I would miss that entry and be like, man, trade is done. I can't get in again. But not the case. Just looking at this technically on a chart, sells off, consolidates. Here's another channel between the low of that is right around 37.55, and the high of it is, call it, right around 37.80. So you got about a 30-cent channel, bounces around a bit, finally cracks below it, risking above the high of that channel. You're really only risking, call it, 30 cents. And then Moomoo just continues to sell off. And there's still even more opportunity, right? This thing sells off again, bounces, still stays below the 20-period moving average. So in my opinion, showing that it's still bearish. And then even, this channel is obviously a little bit bigger, and you can break it down even tighter within. But I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible. Bounces, then has a nice sell-off, breaks below the previous pivot. There is another opportunity to go short. Can have a stop at the high of, I sometimes like to have a stop at the high of the candle that I get in on. And then even again creates another channel and an opportunity to short. Now, at some point, I don't want to chase. Like, I feel like things, it doesn't mean that it can't go lower, but still don't want to be a fool and just chase it. But even then again, this thing creates another channel. And then, the high of some of the previous candles were right around, call it 37.65, 37.70. Finally breaks the low of the channel of 36.50. Only got to risk 15, 20 cents. Finally breaks. And this would have been a good opportunity, for more downside. So obviously there's a lot of lines on the chart, but I'm trying to, do my best at finding very clear areas of support, very clear areas of resistance, letting them create a bit of a channel. I know sometimes I would get into trouble where I would try to predict a move a little bit, anticipate it a little bit. Even though you have to anticipate, I would anticipate sometimes too much, which would allow big losses. So waiting for a little bit of a consolidation, and then finally striking once it breaks to be able to, take advantage of a good opportunity, and then and realize where like a clear out is, rather than just, holding on to it. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully that kind of gave a clear, idea of what I am consistently looking for, and has allowed me to be able, to be consistently profitable. I have had the occasional blip where I do take a hit, which I can get better at, but overall, very consistent. In the month, so far, it's a good month. I've only had 2 losing days, and up right around $4,500, on the month. And I am going to be on August 30th. I'm actually flying out to San Diego for going on 2 weeks. So I will be MIA for a little bit, just so if anybody knows, it's not that I've disappeared. It's that I'm going on vacation visiting some family. So if this isn't the last video, maybe I'll squeeze one more in before I go, just to be able to, put something out there. And then that will be it for me for a couple weeks. So video's a little long, but hopefully some of the stuff was good, provided some good value, and then was, just made sense as to what I look for on a daily basis. So that is it for me. Hopefully everybody had a good week. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys later.